had so many audio issues and I don't know what was heard and what was not heard. So thank you for your patience as we start 20 minutes late. All right, I'm calling the Twin Cities German Immersion School Board to order. Today is January 26th. The time is 6:50 p.m. And we'll start with our mission, vision, and values. The mission of the Twin Cities German Immersion School is the innovative education of the whole child through German immersion. Our vision is andere hören, andere sehen, Weltoffen denken und handeln. And our values are curiosity, kindness, challenge and support, intercultural engagement, and community. Secretary Dayton, could we please do a roll call?
Sure. Director Albers.
Here.
Director Alpachute.
Here.
Director Dayton is here. Director Eberhard.
Here.
Director Hartman. Here. Director Hyde.
Here.
Director Kutzinga.
Here.
Director Quan Dobbs.
Here.
Director Muller.
Here.
Director Wright.
Here.
Director Tesfayas is absent. Ex officio member, Executive Director Christensen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Secretary Dayton. For the opening remarks tonight, I'll read an excerpt out of our diversity and belonging statement. TCGIS promotes anti-racist ideas and policies and expects community members to recognize and correct racist language and promote anti-racist actions. We challenge perpetrators of prejudice, racism, and harassment of any person. We pledge to actively support equity and fairness for all TCGIS students, families, and staff. Actions and words of TCGIS community members will be anti-racist because neutrality is not enough. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So.
Thank you, Director Hyde. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Director Kutzinga. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. First item on our agenda is our special recognition. Director Christensen will be doing that, but we do need to pull up that slide.
I can do it
You have it up?
on my computer. No?
Sure. Oh, perfect. Thank you for bearing with us as we don't have our administrative assistant with us tonight. So
You can go ahead
can
and
go
go on.
on. So can you go to the slide 2?
Yeah.
This one.
That one. I'll allow you to read the names here. And I just want to offer my heartfelt thanks to all of these families who sponsored our 11 interns in the fall and our 7 interns this spring. We could not do this program without our host families. It's an act of great generosity. We know that it enriches their experience, and we're really grateful that they open their homes and their hearts to our interns and allow not just the experience of the interns in the schools to be part of their children's lives, but to have them in their families as well. And our intern program is really at the heart of our mission of German immersion, and we're just really grateful to these families for making it possible. So thank you so much to them.
And that includes our very own Lori Hartman on the board. So thank you for doing extra duty to support our school. All right, the next item on the agenda is open forum for public comment. I don't see anybody present in the room, and we typically ask for comments from those present, but tonight I will ask if anybody on the Zoom would like to speak and address the board. Seeing none, I will close the open forum portion of the evening. Thank you. And that brings us to the director's report. Director Christensen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. Let me share. Need to fix my audio here.
I think that it can hear you from my microphone.
Okay. Okay. Your volume has to be down.
Okay, can you mute and just do mine?
Sure.
Fantastic.
Let me screen share. Okay, thanks everyone for your patience. I'm going to start today's report. We have a number of key performance indicators for Q2 that I'll be reporting on, and I'm going to start. Let's see, I'm going to start with a report on our multilingual learners, our English language learner program, and our director of that program, Beata Fredwell, is going to give that report. So I will allow her, I'll stop sharing so that she can share her report here.
Thank you. Let me get that. Oh.
And I need to.
I don't think I'm allowed to share. If you want to share it from
Sure,
the-
I'll share it from the slide. Yeah,
Perfect.
one
Thank you.
second.
Can you all hear Beata? Okay.
That might change when the toddler comes back upstairs.
Oh, I just lost my.
You can share it off too.
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us tonight, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I can still make it.
Is it not letting you share?
I think it's a computer issue on my end though,
Okay,
so
I can do it.
Kirsten.
sorry. I've been enjoying being in person, so I haven't had to play around with this too much. Perfect. Thank you. So as Kirsten already said, I'm the ELL teacher, or as we prefer to call them, our multi-language learners, because we have a lot of students who speak more than one language. And sort of academia is a little split, and MDE is still using ELL as the terminology, so we'll have to go with the official for now, but secretly we just call them the multi-language learners because that's what they truly are. I guess I'll just have to thank you. No, go ahead, that'd be great. I just put a couple bullet points on there to give you an overview of the program. The students are served in small groups via pullouts. I have a schedule where I pull each student from their classroom, and there's a maximum of 4 in a group. I have one group that I meet with one student one-on-one once a week. So really cater to the students' needs. We meet twice a week for 20 minutes. And out of the 27 students that I screened in the fall, 8 newly qualified for services. I say newly qualified because 6 students that already received ELL services last year continued this year. And we had 1 student graduate, so to speak. So that was exciting to deliver that. Like, I have not done anything to earn this, but I will give you the certificate. 14 students currently receive ELL services, and you see the breakdown of the grade levels. One thing that I thought was very particular to note was we don't have any kindergartners who receive ELL services. If you go to the next slide, I'll talk a little more about that. So the assessment starts in the fall with a screener. I just mentioned the screener. So in the first couple weeks of school, students whose parents identified them as speaking another language other than English at home get visited by me basically and get pulled to see if their English is proficient enough to follow the instructions in the classroom. That's the screener. The screener looks at listening, speaking, reading, and writing, as you see in the 4 domains highlighted on the left-hand side. Excuse me. I'm very pregnant, so I'm like out of breath constantly. We are then literally just starting with the access testing window. Access is when we basically check what's their progress and are they, now proficient enough in English after a couple of months of instructions to graduate from our program to exit the ELL services. The testing window, as stated here, opens on January 30th. And I literally got the overview today from Donnie Nicholson, who's taken over the data part for us right now. She put this schedule together, so I have no credit to take in for that. But as you can maybe make out, the testing will start at TCGIS on February 1st, and it will go until February 10. So it will be split up so the students are not tested for 3 hours a day, rather by writing, speaking, listening, and so on. Next slide, please. Parent communication. This was communicated with parents and there were questions, but no one has opted out of this test. But generally in the fall, parents are informed of the screening. So we'll let them know, hey, because you said your child speaks different languages, we would like to make sure that they know what's going on in English. I will also then share results with them. So I might say, yes, your child qualified for ELL services, or no, your child did not. So it's a sad thing, but your child is proficient in English, maybe. We had one parent who had initially opted out of testing. For whatever reason, parents can do that, and they don't have to even give us the reasons why. And one parent declined services. And that's maybe not as uncommon as you think in our school setting, because we have students who move from German-speaking countries here, and the parents say, maybe let's give our child a little bit of time to just acclimatize and see how they go with the English just being thrown at them in a general classroom setting, with the other kids talking to them. And like I said, it's their absolute right. And then we had one parent who actually approached me and asked, could you make sure that my child is up to par? And he's actually one of my students now. So, it goes always. And also, sorry, yeah, point 5, we had parents who outright said, even though I said my child speaks, primarily another language or speaks additional languages, I know my child is proficient enough in English. Don't waste your time testing my child. We're fine. Yes, as I said, we have a lot of German-speaking students, to no surprise. I also have an awesome group with a student who has a Japanese-speaking background. And actually, we just had another student join us there who has a Polish and German-speaking background, and then another one with, sort of dialect going on. So honestly, it's really fun for me to see the diversity firsthand in my classroom, even in my small groups. And I mentioned the kindergartners being screened. I thought it was amazing to have these little 5-year-olds in, the beginning of September sitting in front of me, and they're just chit-chatting away in English happily. And they also speak Spanish and German. I mean, like, no big deal. So it was really cool to have those. And like I said, none of our kindergartners screened for ELL services. So they're all proficient enough in English and whatever other languages they speak. So that was pretty impressive.
Great.
Any questions? Anything anybody would like to know?
No questions? That was a really nice overview. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And thanks for the work you do with our students.
I need to find my presentation. Okay, can you all see that?
Mhm.
Okay. So moving on. Next key performance indicator is enrollment. I'll just let you take a look at that. A second, our current enrollment is 622. This is accurate as of yesterday.
Can you speak briefly to the wait list? I mean, are these active people on the wait list or
Oh, these wait lists.
there, yeah?
Um,
I mean, there are no offers out, so I assume the wait list are for other reasons. but-
yeah, because we're the wait lists for kindergarten first and second were at capacity
Mhm.
in those classes, or the determined capacity. Third grade, that is a student with who has immune issues in the family, and they are waiting until they're more comfortable with the health situation before they join. Here's our financial indicators, our fund balance. Per the November financial report, 25.8% of current year expenditures is our fund balance. Projected days cash on hand for the fiscal year end is 62. And projected debt service coverage ratio at fiscal year end is 0.86. Questions there? Another key performance indicator we're supposed to report on for Q2 is our fund balance policy, which is linked here. And the goals related to that. We want to achieve an ending fund balance of the year of at least 20%. We're currently at 26.4 and projected to be at 25.8 at year end. Deficit spending is a part of the fund balance policy. We are currently in a deficit and we're taking measures to reduce the projected deficit for this fiscal year without drastically impacting the operations of the school negatively. And we are aiming to, in the words of the policy, to meet all bond covenants. We are not currently meeting all bond covenants, but we are aiming to do so. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on to equity, one of the key performance indicators is that the school is welcoming and inclusive. We're supposed to have the diversity and belonging staff and board training. We have one for staff planned for February 17th. We have various diversity and belonging school initiatives underway. We have a new student diversity, equity, and inclusion group led by Dr. Royan Hendricks and special education teacher Jenna Powell. They're currently working on a survey for students about their experiences in the school. And we have a really active BIPOC affinity group who's done a number of things, including in the very recent past, camping, sledding, and cocoa and circle groups. And we have another circle group coming up this coming Monday in response to the incident that was described in today's email. Another equity measure is our disciplinary measures, which for the purposes of this report means only suspensions, both in and out of school suspensions. So these are the suspensions for Q2. Whoops, sorry. We had only 2, both white, both male, neither of whom received free or reduced lunch, and both of those were in-school suspensions. Just want to offer some highlights of things that are going on in the school. You're all, I know, aware of the organizational restructure we have. We created a new position of principal, and Elizabeth Samepfennig, who was previously our middle school dean, is now serving in that position. I wanted to report that she is working weekly with a mentor from MDE. They have a principal support program that offers free support to principals. She's working weekly with a mentor from that program and has reported that it's wonderful already. We created another new position, Dean of Students, and are grateful to have Michael White serving in that position. We lost our Director of Operations and made the decision not to replace that position, and those duties have been distributed across several different members of our support staff. A few other personnel changes. Class 3A lost their teacher at the holiday break, at the winter break. Matthias Frasch, who's a parent in our community, has been subbing for the month of January and doing a wonderful job. I've enjoyed stopping in his class several times. And current ADSIS teacher Scott Stevenson will be taking over class 3A for the rest of the semester. Oh, and I forgot to put in there, Emily Richardson, who is an EA, will be taking over for Scott as ADSIS, in ADSIS. And then we have a new music teacher just this week. Her name is Desdemona Rakelli, and she is replacing Dylan Murphy, who had to leave to take care of a family member. A few other school highlights. Probably most of you know that grades were submitted for semester 1 and are available now, and semester 2 began on the 17th of January. Our kindergartners had a whole day trip to the field trip to the Science Museum and Planetarium, and it apparently went off without meltdowns and with a lot of excitement. History Day is wrapping up. This is a very big deal for our middle schoolers. Judging for that will be happening on February 9th, and will determine the students that go to, I think it's called regionals, and then potentially on to state and nationals from there. We have a math team at TCGIS. They were highlighted in the last one brief. We hosted here at TCGIS the Minnesota State Junior High School Math League. We hosted it and won first and third place for our team. And our own, 2 of our students placed first and second, and also 4th and 7th in that. So really big deal. I'm proud of them, really proud of them. And then I wanted to mention an exhibition, an exhibit that will be coming for the entire month of March called Lest We Forget. Probably most of you remember the exhibit we had last year called Transfer of Memory, that highlighted Minnesota Holocaust survivors. One of the survivors who is featured in that exhibit has created an exhibit with his wife, who is an artist, about his own life and experiences as a very young child in Nazi Germany, and then as a refugee in America. And that exhibition is called Lest We Forget. His name is Fred Amram, and his wife's name is Sandra Brick. She is a multimedia artist and illustrated vignettes from his life that he wrote. And so we will have those panels will be on exhibit in the atrium for the entire month of March. Whoa. For the entire month of March. And we'll have an evening event on March 16th where Fred and Sandra will speak a little bit about Fred's life story and about their process of working together on the exhibit. It should be a really special event. Fred turns 90 this year. I hope it goes without saying that this is a really unique opportunity to hear firsthand from someone who experienced a devastating time in world history, and one that we don't want to forget. So I'm also really happy to report that Fred and Sandra will be working with one of our art classes. Sandra will be working with one of our art classes, and Fred will be speaking to all of the 8th grade social studies classes, talking about his experience. So that I hope will be a really deeply meaningful experience for our students to have that kind of contact with them. And I hope it will make the exhibition more meaningful to them as well. So again, that's for the whole month of March. So I hope you'll take time to come see that and plan to be there on the 16th. And then I think we'll turn the time over to Andrew for his report on the calendar, and then we'll come back to the vote on this in a moment. Okay, I'll end share. Take it away, Andrew.
Okay. Do I need to share my screen then?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
And
Andrew's
do
going to report on the calendar committee work.
And should I also then unmute? Are you ready for me to unmute?
Hold on, let me mute.
All right, let's give this a try. Okay. Hi, everyone. Andrew Haugen. I am the lead special education coordinator here at TCGIS, if we haven't met before, and I am subbing on the calendar committee for Esther Noy. And yes, so this has been a fun learning experience for me as I've been working with our calendar. If you give me a moment to find the right tab, I will go through our highlights here, this process. Yeah, I can do that. All right, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. All right. Why is it not giving me the right tab options here? I think. There it is. Okay. All right. So here is the proposed school calendar. I'll give you a couple of moments to look at this. If you haven't had a chance to view it yet. Yes. In fact, I could probably turn the view in such a way so we can see the whole thing. All right, so I'll skip over here. I don't, yeah, it looks like I'm sharing my screen and not the tab, but that's fine. So as we went through the calendar committee, looked at the calendar for next year, we did so within the lens of the school calendar policy that was adopted by the board. And so some of our guiding priorities and principles were around minimizing the partial weeks and and having more 5-day weeks throughout the calendar, because that can place an undue burden on families for childcare responsibilities. Having our prospective and current families finding their values reflected in the calendar by recognizing significant cultural days and increasing representation and equity. The length and time of breaks should allow international staff and families the time necessary to visit home. Winter and spring break should align with St. Paul Public Schools. And I skipped the commitment to innovative education through professional development and making sure that we set aside time for our teachers to have that time to meet and collaborate and learn themselves. So we were working with the parameters here of having about 165 student contact days for grades 7 through 12. We are required to have 1,020 instructional hours, and because of the number of instructional minutes in our day, it equals about 165 days. That said, the school calendar has traditionally built in between 170 and 173 days because we have weather events and other things that happen that could potentially cause us to close school, and we need that buffer so we don't have to find ourselves making up days at the end of June. The teacher collective bargaining agreements says that they have 188 work days, but because we bring teachers in for conferences twice a year during the evenings, we give that day back to them in the form of one comp day. So the calendar will reflect 187 teacher work days, though the CBA says 188. And then the guidelines for PLCs are roughly around 24 to 27 hours for our teachers to meet in PLCs for QComp. So as we look at the school calendar, the things that are remaining unchanged are the entire month of August, That has not changed. It is remaining very much the same in just when we bring teachers back and when students start. You will see that here that the start date is going to be the last Monday for most students except kindergarten, which will start on the 30th. Okay. Okay. We'll have professional development day on Friday of Labor Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Yom Kippur, November 1st. All of those days are days that were on this year's calendar for PD. Those days will again be given to teachers for professional development and are seen on the calendar. We this year had 3 early release days. The feedback we received from families in the family surveys were that early release days are not terribly popular. And so we wanted to minimize the number of early release days that we have on our calendar. So we got it down to three early release days, which is what we had this year. Fall break over MEA is unchanged. And then our spring break aligning with St. Paul Public Schools calendar, which will be somewhat late. It's the second week in April. All right, so then we did make some slight changes. One is purely aesthetic. Picture day is deleted from the calendar. We this last year had a full PD day and then evening conferences following that PD day on the Monday of Thanksgiving week. And the feedback on that was generally positive enough that we decided to do that for both evening conference days next year. So there will be for fall and spring conferences on that day. When there's the evening conferences, it will be preceded by a full PD day so that teachers have time to meet as grade level teams to compare grades and prepare for conferences. And then we added a PD day to the Tuesday of MLK weekend. This year, because of grading, we had PD on the Friday before MLK. That has been moved to the following Tuesday, because if it had remained on that Friday the 12th, we would have had a short week. So, and then our first 5-day week would have been the 4th week in January. So we chose not to make that move and instead have that 3-day week, the 3rd week in January. Now, the big changes, excuse me. And these will take a little bit more time to explain. So the first is that teacher comp day was moved to November 22nd. The teacher compensatory day, the day that the teachers get because of those evening conferences, was originally on the calendar for June 14th. And we moved it instead to November 22nd. And that is because we, again, received some relatively positive feedback at having the full week of November off for students and families, and having the Wednesday before Thanksgiving available for our staff. So it seemed more important to have that day protected, move the compensatory day there rather than at the end of the school year. So that was a relatively big change. Then I'll skip 2 and move to 3 or move to 4 because it's related. So the grading day was moved to after the last day of school. The way that June was originally designed was this 7th was a grading day when teachers would work on grades and everything else. And then the 12th would be the last day of school. 13th was a work day. 14th was that compensatory day where nothing was required of the teachers. It was just given as a day off. Again, to shorten or to reduce the number of short weeks, we decided to make that again a 5-day week, and we would move the grading day to the day following the last day of school. And then the 14th is a work day. So that just pushed that work day back from Thursday to Friday. And we as an admin team will have to figure out what that looks like and what that means for our staff and what will be expected. But it just means that that Friday before the end of the school year won't be a grading day. I'll do the third one next. The end of September, or the end of semester, I'm sorry, was moved to the 2nd of February. And this is a change I'm pretty excited about. So on this year's school calendar, first semester is 75 student contact days. Second semester is 95. And so that's with the semester break at MLK weekend. On the proposed calendar, 23-24, first semester is actually going to be 88 school days. Second semester is 81. So with this shift of the end of the semester, instead from January 12, 2024 down to February 2nd, we bring the semesters a little bit more into balance. And it also has a beneficial effect of helping us with recruiting of our interns. Because it has been a struggle to find second semester interns because of the way that the semesters breaks happen in Europe versus at our school. So it's just harder to find people who are available to start in mid-January than it is at the beginning of February. So with this change, we hope that we can bring a little bit more balance to our ability to recruit interns as well. And then finally, the change that's probably going to have the most discussion is around winter break. So winter break in St. Paul Public Schools is this last week in December, 25th through the 29th, and the first full week of January, the 1st through the 5th. I'm sorry. Is it? In Minneapolis Public Schools, they have the 18th through the 22nd, the 25th through the 29th, and then January 1st. So our calendar splits the difference. It is the 21st through the 3rd, which means that that week before there's 2.5 days, the 20th of December being an early release day, and then returning, there are 2 days, Thursday and Friday at the beginning of January. This change was done having to sort of balance our some international staff concern about if we were to dismiss on the 22nd as our last day, that would really only give our international staff 1 day's turnaround to get back to Europe prior to the start of the celebration of Christmas on the 24th. It's a really tight turnaround, and they would prefer a buffer in a couple of days. What this does is it does knock us out of alignment a little bit with St. Paul and Minneapolis Public Schools, and it does provide us with a couple of short weeks, and it does take away one of the weekends. So it's not as long of a winter break, but it does give the buffer around the holiday. So when trying to take into consideration the feelings of our international staff and families with our other priorities, it was sort of making a judgment call in that way, that we would give these couple of days, Thursday and Friday before winter break, preceded by an early release day on the 20th. So this is the school calendar as proposed for 23-24, and I am open to answering your questions. I don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat. Any here? Oh, okay. Yeah. As a holiday. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It may. Mhm. Mhm.
Because I'm assuming the dates are going to also be part of the calendar that's printed, is that right?
Yeah, so this wouldn't be the printed TCGIS calendar. It is already on there, but yes, to have it acknowledged in our other holidays, yes, would be appropriate.
Very
Thank you.
What was the thinking for not tracking Minneapolis? That's the one that's the week of the 18th week, sorry, still talking about winter break, week of the 18th week of the 25th. Depending on this, or the first.
So not aligning the calendar with Minneapolis rather than the way that it's done. And great question. This was done as sort of a compromise because in the priorities stated that we would be aligned with St. Paul Public Schools, and Minneapolis wasn't a consideration in the priorities in the board policy. So that would be something to consider.
Is there, or did you talk at all with the staff that would like to go home or travel if that the week before Christmas is easier to travel instead of like would mirroring Minneapolis instead of St. Paul be as advantageous as the way the calendar is right now for their travel?
That survey has not been conducted, but it could be, and I suppose when we make this available, we could ask for that feedback.
So the policy was written with in mind that we have the partnership with St. Paul Public Schools, Central High School. So with so many of our families having graduates continuing into that system, we prioritized alignment with that. So I think the approach to split the difference, so to speak, makes a lot of sense.
Is it aligning with St. Paul Public as much as possible? Okay, understood.
Any other questions?
Okay. Yep, I'll stop sharing as well.
Okay, is my microphone working? Yes, okay.
So do you want to talk about this or do you want me to?
I just wanted to mention that the board will vote on the calendar in next month's board meeting. So if you have public comment regarding the board count or the school calendar for next year, please email the board at board@tcgis.org.
Can I? bring it up?
Yes, Director Dayton.
It's hard to find people that are enthusiastic about calendaring. So thank you for the work that you did.
Absolutely.
You are welcome.
You did a great job.
All right, back to you, Director Christensen.
Sure. The
Thank you,
last.
Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. The last item on my report is to share the strategic plan progress report from last year, 21-22. which is in the board packet. We don't need to discuss it here necessarily unless there are specific questions about it, but I think there was a desire to move to approve this document.
Mhm.
So it's many pages long, so more than we can go through in this setting.
Yeah, so as part of our strategic plan, we've committed to giving yearly updates on the progress we're making toward the goals in the plan. So this is the second progress report that is being issued on Vision 2025. And this is actually really useful timing as we have a subcommittee put together to evaluate our strategic plan in the wake of the pandemic. We want to recalibrate our milestones to make sure we're not skipping things that we intended to do. If something is in progress, we want to make sure we capture that in the milestones going forward, recognizing that progress was slower than we anticipated due to all the resources diverted to running a school during a pandemic. So the subcommittee is meeting to really recalibrate those milestones and evaluate what's written. We also plan to add to the background section and challenges, the new academic challenges and social emotional health challenges that we have with our students coming out of the pandemic. So thank you for that update.
That's the last item on my report.
All right, I'll move to approve the progress report on the school year 21-22 strategic plan update.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Director Hyde, for the second. Is there discussion on the report?
Or any of the milestones that are or were not yet in progress as of last year, have they been moved to other years?
I think that's part of the discussion, right? Of
That's
the-
part of our
Mhm.
task force.
Mhm. Any other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor of approving the progress report of the strategic plan, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Nice job. Well, that's a lot of work to put together. All right, next item on the agenda is our committee reports. We'll go down the list as shown in the agenda. Director Hyde. Yeah, I'll mute now.
All right, the finance committee a few months ago moved our meetings to the first Tuesday of the month from the third Tuesday of the month to facilitate more time for our accountants and admin team to get the numbers together so we can be looking at more accurately reflected numbers. Because of that, we did not meet in January because the meeting would have been January 2nd. So our last meeting was December 13th, and we will be meeting again. I think it's the 6th of February. So trying to remember month and a half, 2 months ago. It's a little bit, it's getting back there. But we discussed having a public call, or we discussed the public call on the bond covenants and changes that we had been making to the working budget and went over them and got input from the finance committee. We went over enrollment that's reflected in your packet for December 13th. I would use the more recent one in the director's report. We over the financials review for October, and those numbers are in the packet, but
like the last thing, the more accurate and more recent numbers are in Dr. Christensen's director's report from tonight. We also talked about coming up with a budget review plan. I have an update there. We've been making a little progress in the last few weeks since the holiday break, and plan to continue meeting with members of the finance committee as well as members of admin to keep coming up with our plan there. I don't have any updates on the ERC or the PPP loan. If you do.
It's been submitted.
Yeah, okay.
And we're taking a couple minutes to find those.
Yeah, we don't need to go over that, but it was officially submitted. Great. So now it's just a waiting game for both.
I'm not sure about the PPP, I just saw the ERC, it's just as submitted to the IRS.
Okay.
ERC is the employee retention credit.
Yep. And then there was some talk about the QComp budget and some confusion between the QComp coordinator and the admin team and our accounting firm. Well, we'll pay close attention to that moving forward. I don't anticipate it'll be any large part of our discussions for the rest of the year. And that's about it. So if anybody has any questions from the meeting or anything that's happened in the 6 weeks since, I am open. No? All right, thank you all.
Governance committee.
Yeah, I see Richard's muted. Wanted to make sure. It's like a game of tag now. Not much to report out of governance. We met the first week back from break, which was a pretty quick turnaround, especially with snow days. In hindsight, could have moved that one. But we went through some policies, none of which are ready for approval tonight. So there is no action items coming out of governance. The one other thing that needs to get rolling is the nomination committee, or lovingly known as NOMCOM, so that we can start working on election work and move forward from there. Otherwise, governance is just chugging right along. That was Julie, Lisa, myself, and I'm gonna feel bad about it now. Nicole Crashell was a part of it, I believe. And then we needed a parent. Yes, and I cannot be a part of it if I'm running. We need one parent, one board member, and one staff member per nomination committee bylaw.
And another key responsibility of NOMCOM is to do recruiting.
Yeah.
So actively recruiting people that would be really great candidates for the board. So think about it. If any of you want to be the board member on NOMCOM, I think I'd like to step back from that.
Oh, so we gotta replace all the shoes. Who else is running this year?
It would be, my position is open, Silka's position is open, and Megan's position is open.
You know, if you're running again, Megan.
For next week.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna ask. I just want to know who participated in that.
Yeah. As long as, if they're not running, they're welcome to be a part, but if they are running, they may not. Any questions?
You're running though.
I am.
Just want to be clear. Fantastic.
I don't want to be part of the committee. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's how I'm getting out of it. I'm going through the interview process. No, I plan to run.
Excellent, thank you. All right, any questions for Director Albers on governance? Did the committee get a chance to look at the fundraising policy draft?
I believe it was sent after our meeting.
Okay.
And so we will, it's in the agenda for next month, which
Sounds good.
is a week from tonight.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. I'm muting now.
All right, Director Wright.
Yeah, I can just give a quick recap. We met in January, reviewed kind of where we are at year to date against our $110,000 goal, and we're just shy of 70,000, which is tracking with where we were at last year. We're a little bit behind, but hope to make that ground up with the remainder of our efforts. A big thing the committee is working on is just a holistic effort to send thank you notes to everybody who contributed over the last calendar year to the TCGIS annual fund. So we've all taken about 15 or so names, and we'll be sending personal thank you notes just to let people know how much we appreciate their support. Something kind of cool this year is the thank you notes will all feature student art. So thanks to Mary Zimmerman for organizing that effort. Moving on, we're planning for the spring. We're planning to do our Garden of Gratitude tribute giving campaign again, as well as a fun kind of spring cleaning coin collection in conjunction with our used book sale. Kind of a big spring cleaning, clean out your books, bring your spare change, all the benefit our school. So we all, as it was just mentioned, we're working on our fundraising policy as well, which we've submitted to governance for their review. And yeah, I think that's about it. Any questions?
Thank you for all your work on fundraising.
Yeah, of course.
Great progress. Any questions? Director, checks that are received by the school for volunteer hours. So some companies take volunteer hours and write a check towards that nonprofit. How are those recognized?
I am not aware that we receive any, but I could certainly look. I don't recall seeing those in the past, but perhaps they have been. I would assume that if they come with a name on it associated, we would also try to thank the volunteer. But the actual gift would be credited to the company that gives it.
Right.
But I will certainly look into that. I don't have access to our database, so I kind of have to go through Katerina, but I will certainly inquire.
Yeah.
Are you aware of specific, do you have them through Medtronic?
We do, yes.
Okay.
And Target does as well.
Yeah, but I know Kohl's used to have a big program too. I don't know if they still do, but yeah, I can certainly ask.
It was nice to have some kind of acknowledgement that it was received, because sometimes it makes you wonder if the school got it or not.
For sure.
And there's a lot of loops you have to jump through to request it. So it's nice to acknowledge that effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I will look into that.
Awesome, thank you. All right, no further questions?
Sounds good. Yeah, the Diversity and Belonging Committee met on January 17th. There's some exciting things to highlight, especially the events coming up in regards to the Indigenous land acknowledgement, that we're hosting 2 events to give some context to our work in this committee, and we're very thankful to Dr. Tyler Taylor, who will talk about land acknowledgements, and our 5th and 6th grade English teacher, Rachel Schley, who will give a a lesson that she's giving to sixth graders to the wider community. So I hope a lot of you out there and a lot of board members can join us either in person in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks more so, or via Zoom. So that's really exciting. Other things that we discussed were the school calendar, like we all heard tonight. And we are also working on an event probably in May around cultures, a festival of cultures that you can expect a survey going out soon to gather interest, hopefully next week. And lastly, in our next committee meeting, we will take a look at holidays and which holidays the school wants to celebrate and wants to teach about. And I don't know, Chair Alcatud, if you want to speak about the BIPOC affinity group a little more, because I think you have some events planned for that as well.
Yeah, so we held a BIPOC.
Okay, yeah, we held a BIPOC affinity group, circle group, one circle group for adults and one for middle school students, facilitated by AmazeWorks. We've been working with AmazeWorks since 2019 on our diversity and belonging initiatives. It was well attended. We also shared a meal together before the circle groups. We also provided childcare for the elementary aged kiddos to have fun in the Sporthalle together. So thank you to Kinder Club for providing someone to watch the kiddos. And the discussions were good. The one with the middle school group was focused on microaggressions and how to counter them. And the adult group was more of an open discussion about life experiences, things that have happened long ago and more recently. So of course, you saw in the email today, we're convening the circle groups again next Monday in response to the incident that was described in the email. So I'm grateful that we have this support structure in place to call together a supportive group of people who have been having fun doing social events together, such as camping and bowling and seeing movies and sledding. That's really helped build that community up. And I look forward to a productive discussion next Monday. That's it. All right. Any other questions about diversity and belonging committee?
Just want to make a comment and probably more on me.
Need to unmute, he needs to unmute.
Can you unmute, Richard?
For the second Indigenous Peoples Land Acknowledgement talk, I didn't know who was actually invited to that by reading this. Just like it says 6th grade lesson for parents, like all parents, 6th grade parents. So that might mean maybe we want some clarification there and other.
Thank you for that. We'll make sure that's clear the next time. Make sure that it's targeted to a whole community.
Director Eberhard, could you share when diversity and belonging meets in case anybody listening to this Zoom or the recording would like to join the committee? We always welcome more members and more participation, and the more people we have, the more progress we'll make.
Yeah, I had to look it up quick. We'll meet on March 14th, the next time. So if you have especially strong opinions or wanted to participate in our discussion around holidays or anything else diversity and belonging related, please come. We're a very inclusive group, as the name suggests. So we're happy to see you there. yeah, it's usually from 4 to 5, but I've heard 4:30 might be better, so we're thinking about changing that to make it a little bit more accessible for people.
And the meeting is by Zoom, so makes it easier to attend as well.
Google Meet actually now.
Oh, Google Meet. Same thing, kind of. All right, thank you, Director Aberhard. Communication and Outreach Committee. Director Müller.
Okay, yeah, the Communication Outreach Committee met on January 11th, and we have several subcommittees, and I will give a quick report from these committees. So one is the school mascot committee, and the loon as a mascot was agreed on and confirmed, but it was agreed that the mascot should align with the new school branding, and two parents who have worked on the school logo and the branding also agreed to start now working on the mascot to have the loom like color wise and yeah, from the feeling aligned with that. So that is coming. Then advocacy committee. There's also interesting things going on at the Capitol for charter schools for school funding this year, and Joey, I actually don't know his last name, but he's from Max. He's invited, and he will give TCGIS community at an event. He will give a report of the he's the director of the legislative outreach, and he will talk about what's going on there, and parents are invited. It is actually pretty interesting to hear that. There are also plans to invite state senators, representatives to TCGIS to see our school and to advocate for our school. Then there's the Alumni Relations Committee, and we had a winter gathering in December. We also now working, or Mary Zimmerman, who's took over a large part of the communication, is mainly responsible for communication. She's working on a website, alumni website, and we met just today to give some feedback or input, and this is exciting. Also, let me see. Yeah, how to structure the alumni data. And then we have, what else? Yeah, the recruitment and marketing plan. There a lot is going on there because we're in the middle of the recruitment phase. And the most exciting thing is that our communication staff figured out a way to very targeted contact families through mailing and postcards. And yeah, based on data they gathered. So, but recruiting, I mean, as it was shared in the Rundbrief, is a lot through word of mouth, and so everybody who's on this call talk about our school. Yeah, any questions? Or did I forget anything?
All right, thank you, Director Nguyen. Great work going on here.
All right, the board met as the committee of the whole, which is a working session of the board. We got a sneak peek at the calendar with Andrew Haugen presenting to the board. And we also heard updates from Treasurer Hyde on the meetings that we held with our bond attorney, who is Craig Kepler, and S&P. And basically we met with S&P, we described the budget situation and actions being taken to adjust the budget. They track us so that they can change our bond rating if needed. So we'll see if they change anything or not. We looked at our retreat agenda. I think that's about it. At committee of the whole. Oh, we did approve the Q2 report. So the Q2 report is sent to the authorizer. It contains all the information that they require on a certain timeline. So there's certain aspects that they look at in Q2. The board did approve that and it was submitted to the authorizer on Friday of that week. The board met in closed session and discussed feedback for the executive director from the board. We are conducting a mid-year review for Director Christensen as per our plan and our bylaws. And we'll meet again tonight in closed session just to confirm and get a vote that everyone agrees with the feedback that's planned. That's it from committee of the whole. Anything else to add from that? All right. And then the board met in a retreat on Saturday. We met at a library in Northeast Minneapolis and we had a great session from 9 until 2 and focused primarily on the budget. And since staffing is such a large component of the budget, of course, we spent a lot of time looking at job descriptions of all the administrators. We created a matrix showing all the different duties that they do and looked at the new organization chart to offer feedback to administration with the idea that we need to be as lean as possible to improve our budget. And we also recognize that we do plan to add 2 positions next year, so we need to plan for that. One position being the dean of German immersion, and the other being a development specialist, so fundraising and development specialist. So more to be done regarding that. The board also brainstormed ways to cut costs and ways to increase revenue. We ran out of time to actually discuss all the ideas, so we plan to do that at the committee of the whole meeting in February. We had Joey Cianin from Max. Chinian. Thank you. From Max Public Policy and Advocacy Director. He presented to us what the Max priorities are for the legislative session. So that was very informative, and we've asked him to come and give a presentation to TCGIS community as well. So stay tuned for the announcement of that meeting date. We're still setting up the date with him. But it'll be really informative for our whole community to learn how we can advocate for charter schools and equal funding of charter schools. We can also advocate for increased funding of education in general, of course. And increased lease aid. There's a whole list. So, and we also had Christine Verloor-Roholt join us for an hour to conduct a leadership session on how to juggle everything that we work on as a board, how to toss things to each other, how to juggle things if we need to focus on something and keep something in the air for a little while, and how to adapt to new challenges. So Christine was a previous board member at TCGIS and a previous parent. So we thank her for meeting with us and offering that really fun and engaging session, which led to a lot of great discussion. Right, I think that's it for the retreat. Did I miss anything? If not, we'll go on to liaison updates. Director Hyde, could you give an update as the staff liaison, please?
Yeah, I'd love to. I have met with the staff council once this year in November. There's not been another meeting since. I have reached out to the person running the staff council once or twice to try to get a meeting scheduled, but that hasn't happened yet. So I've also reached out to our executive director and the new principal to discuss staff council in the near future.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, our parent liaison is Wandy Tesfasis, and he's currently in Germany. So we'll have to skip that. Administrative liaison, Director Dayton.
I didn't know. I did now. The update for the administrative liaison committee will be provided in closed session tonight with the review of the executive director. And our next meeting will be hopefully on Monday. That's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the liaisons? All right. Is there any new business for the board tonight? Seeing none. That brings us to our recess. We'll recess for about 15 minutes. The board will reconvene in closed session. The items on the agenda for closed session include discussing the union negotiation strategy. The teachers union has initiated requests to begin negotiating for the next contract. So I'd like the board to get together and discuss what we might like to see in a new contract. We'll also, as mentioned, discuss the mid-year review of the executive director, and we'll conduct a vote to approve the final draft for delivery on Monday. Thank you all for attending tonight. I appreciate it. Have a good evening. We're now in recess. It is 8:08.